The views and opinions expressed on all radio shows broadcast on Tom's Radio Toronto are entirely those of the hosts, guests, and callers who are entirely responsible for all show content and do not in any way reflect the opinions of Tom's Radio Toronto or its staff. These broadcasts are presented and made public as entertainment and general information only, in the hope that they will be entertaining and informative to listeners. They are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or mitigate in any way any disease or condition, or to promote any specific lifestyle, belief, religion, political affiliation, or other personal practice, nor is the information presented necessarily accurate or verifiable.
Good afternoon, Wisdom fans. I'm your host to The Wisdom Show. I'm Bruce Gilbert, and we have a full slate ahead of us, and I'll introduce our guests in a moment. We have, just to tell you, what is The Wisdom Show, if you're not aware, it's dedicated to understanding, acquiring, and mastering wisdom to explore how to enrich ourselves and better society. Initially, we survey the world's most famous and ancient book of wisdom, the biblical book of Proverbs. And today we will be actually dealing with a verse that is probably in the top 10 of famous biblical verses. And here's the spoiler alert, it's a misquote. So there's lots of things to tackle. I think I should go right in and introduce my guests. We'll have our announcer read his biography, and then we'll get into, because he has an interesting story.
So our guest presenter this week is Akiva Balter. He is married and father of 6 and has been memorializing souls for over 35 years. He does this through creating, designing, and installing cemetery monuments on their grave sites. He also volunteers in various community endeavors such as the Burial Society and visiting the sick. During the pandemic, with the encouragement of his Rabbi Lowy of Agudat Yisrael Congregation of Friends, he launched a program called GZL, an acronym for Gam Zoom Letova. This too is for the best. This is a broadcast daily interactive Talmud class as well as a social and entertaining program. During the pandemic as well, I guess this is what caused that. He was hospitalized with the corona for 2 weeks in April and recovered at home with oxygen tanks. And the plan was an innovative plan created by Women's College Hospital, and that brought him back to health. And without further ado, here he is.
Thank you, Bruce. It's a pleasure to be here.
My pleasure.
And it's nice to meet you. You're not selling me insurance.
Right. Eventually we'll get back to that.
Okay.
The Akiva, you have we want to spend a few minutes on interviewing you because you have a harrowing story. And it was so harrowing, CBC did a documentary about it. And it's current and topical to the whole world. Mm-hmm. Please tell us a little bit about it, and we'll put in the show notes, we'll put a link to the documentary. Please tell people what I saw in shock. I was quite shocked by the whole thing. Please tell us about it.
We went to visit our grown children in Brooklyn, and this was over Passover holidays. And really, one area we went to was Crown Heights, which was known as Corona Heights. And this is a year later. This is 5 months ago. As well, we went to Lakewood, New Jersey. And during that time, it was too early for us to be vaccinated. And we were just doing our business. We wore our mask, but I got it for my wife. She went shopping. By the time I got back, I had a hard time breathing, and I had to be hospitalized. I didn't make it into the ICU ward, but I was one step away from intubation.
So it all went smoothly. You recovered with no problems, right?
Well, it was a while. I was not improving. They tried the Trump drug. They tried different things, and it wasn't working until they tried something called high flow oxygen, which delivers 60 liters per minute. And at that point, it started improving. The interesting story about this, because there's been unfortunately many people in the hospital with corona. The interesting story here is the recovery. Instead of going to a rehab center or staying in the hospital, they decided to send me home and do home care. So my wife had to learn how to manage oxygen. and they brought tanks to our house, and they brought tubes, and I had to sleep with it because I couldn't, without oxygen, I was not able to walk. I couldn't, climbing stairs was difficult. And from that point on, the care was at home. They would always only call. Doctors would call on Zoom. Nurses would call on Zoom. So instead of doing the rounds in the hospital, they did the rounds via Zoom.
So it sounds relatively easy. Your wife is perfectly functional. What could go wrong with something as simple and elegant and cost-saving and beneficial as this?
Well, I'm sure if you don't want to leave an open oxygen tank near the fire, that's the first thing that can go wrong.
Don't try this at home, kids.
I think that any time, first of all, you're caring for a loved one at home. It's not something that we're accustomed to do. It's new. You want to make sure that they're looked after. My wife is my wife. She's not my nurse.
Look there.
Yeah, okay. I like looking at you.
No, look there. Trust me, look there.
So it's a balance. You know, all of a sudden you have to turn the home into somewhat of a caring facility, and learning oxygen and how to handle oxygen is a challenge.
I understand a machine broke. Do I have that right? Did I understand that part of the documentary? Or a piece, or you couldn't breathe it in? There was something broken?
Oh, right. Interestingly enough, in talking about managing the machine, the first machine, my wife was very proud. She figured out how to use it, and she plugs it in, and it's 2 hours later, and I said, it's not working. Actually, I said, it's not working. For whatever reason, that machine,
chilling, right?
for some reason, the machine wasn't delivering the oxygen that was supposed to. But we called Hatzalah, and they swapped out the machines, and it ended up working.
You should tell what Hatzalah. I don't know if our listeners and viewers know what Hatzalah is, and I don't know if I don't know how unique a concept it is, at least in Canada.
Hatzalah, which literally means saving or savior, rescue, is an organization completely comprised of volunteers, and they are there to provide immediate care. So if anything from, God forbid, you cut a finger and it's bleeding, to heart attacks, they will be there within a space of 2 minutes. Regular ambulance, the city ambulance, takes 20. The difference between 2 and 20 can be life-changing or life-altering. So it's an organization that started in New York, where it's completely, again, volunteers, and they have cars and ambulances, and they're trained medics, and they'll come to the house or the workplace and be able to save people on a much more faster basis. And I suspect that we're going to see smaller communities going to that as well soon enough. Not that there's anything wrong with the city ambulance.
Right.
It's just by the nature, when you're trying to serve 3 or 4 million people, how fast can you really get there?
Especially if there's a traffic grid repair problem that we're enduring in Toronto.
We don't know anything of that sort here on Bathurst Street, do we?
Not at all. Okay, so they come, they fix the machine, or replace the machine?
So they replaced the machine, they swapped it out for one that worked, after which things went a little bit better. But I have to tell you what means better. That means when I wanted to walk down the street, I have to carry a little oxygen tank with me. My daughter nicknamed it Roxy. Right, that's a pun for Oxy, and it was a little pet.
I didn't get it.
All right. So anywhere I walked, anywhere I went, I carried this little tank with me. And if I went, and as well as something to measure my oxygen, I think it's called an oximeter. Is that the word?
I don't know.
Okay, it's a little blue thing that goes on the finger. And any time your oxygen drops below 95%, you're in trouble somewhat. Normally, healthy people have it at 99, 98. At one point, I was down to 70. So that gives you a perspective as to how precarious really I was. And I have to tell you now, reading the reports, I think that I was a lot worse than I would care to admit.
Wow.
You know,
and the other thing, you're a fit man in the prime of your life. Can you imagine anyone 10 years older and 30 pounds heavier?
Right. There's no question that helped, and the desire to get better and to get back on my feet as soon as possible. We all know sometimes that it's mind over matter, and you want to fight through it. And I was willing to do anything, even somewhat fib to the doctors that I was okay. And the reality was I wasn't. I remember getting out of the hospital bed, and the doctors asked me, walk. And I couldn't. But I said, I want to go home. I want to go home. Get me home. I don't care. Tell me what I have to do to get home.
It's an
Godspeed,
amazing idea, fibbing to the doctor. I understand that. Many times at the beginning of the regular annual physical or something, I'll say, I'm fine.
Right.
But 15 minutes in, I forgot to mention that my back is hurting, and I don't know what that.
Well, isn't it true that when you go to the doctor, all of a sudden whatever ailment starts subsiding, just being in the doctor's office all of a sudden makes you feel,
I think that's how badly we want to be healthy.
Right. That's right. That's right. So
We're even willing to lie to the doctor to be healthy, to convince
to
ourselves,
lie to
convince
ourselves.
ourselves
man.
that we're healthy.
Which is a great segue to Mishlei about lying to oneself, right?
Okay, let's go into. Owen, do you think it's time for a commercial?
Yeah, sure.
It's also a great segue as a time for a commercial break. So we'll pick up Mishlei chapter 13, the second part B, with a famous statement in it in a moment.
Okay.
Our company is committed to providing truthful, honest, competent, and result-oriented service through advising and representing our clients in Canada and overseas in a wide range of immigration matters. We focus on providing support, building dependable relationships, and promoting success. We are dedicated to understanding what results you want and to helping you understand what actions we can take on your behalf.
Simple lang kumita kahit nasa bahay ka lang gamit ang iyong Show My King online franchise business. Step 1, you post. Step 2, we deliver. Step 3, you earn. Tandaan, sa Show My King lang yan.
We are back. Thank you for hanging in there. We are learning the famous biblical book of Proverbs written by the famous King Solomon, and we have a representative of his who's read the material and is going to present to us. Ladies and gentlemen, grab your Bible, turn to chapter 13, verse, what verse, 15? 14? What do you like?
I had it at, I'd like to start at 13 if that's okay.
So chapter 13, verse 13, did I get that right?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, Akiva Balter.
Thank you. So we're going to start with a concept of scorn. There is an instinctive mechanism in human nature for a person to protect his high opinion of himself by disdaining anything or anybody that places a demand upon him, either directly or indirectly. If he is warned to avoid danger, he may be inclined to minimize the danger and scoff at the advice he is being given. So the Pasuk says, and I'll read it in Hebrew, Baz ledavar yechavel lo, v'yirei mitzvah hu yushalam. He who scorns a thing will harm himself, but he who reveres a mitzvah will be rewarded. Now, just something in general about the style that's written in Proverbs, and I imagine that Bruce already covered it, is that it seems to go to extreme. It tells you something negative or positive, and then flips to the complete side. It gives you the the light side of something and then the dark side of the same idea.
I'm thinking about it.
Oh, okay. All right. I expected
Sometimes
some kind of
it's
reaction.
called a couplet, but sometimes there's triples.
Right. But it's really revolves around the same idea.
Yeah.
One is just the negative side. You could use half full, half empty.
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
want,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I like that.
Okay. So there's a built-in trait, you can call it a defense mechanism, if you will, of anything that comes from the outside is an attack on my ego, on me. Right? The world revolves around me, and I'm getting all these outside messages, and I'm going to choose what fits me, what fits my agenda, and what doesn't. And anything that doesn't fit my agenda, I reject. Anything that doesn't fit my agenda from 100 years ago, I'm going to decide to
This
reject.
isn't far from the doctor's office reference, where you say, I'm fine. It's not, it's almost the same thing. Okay.
Right. So we have this built-in mechanism to try to resist anything that doesn't resonate with me. The world revolves around me. So what I think that King Solomon is telling you is to keep an open mind. Be careful of rejecting things that are good because it may not resonate with you. The natural instinct that a person has needs to be challenged at every given moment. You have to look at yourself almost as homeland security. Remember anybody crossed the border recently? Now they're checking everything. They're asking every question that you have as you come in. How much are you carrying? Did you get vaccinated? Are you exposed? What the test was? That's really the same idea that when something comes across you, challenge to you, ask yourself, do I want to intake this? How does this impact me? And not to instinctively reject an idea that doesn't resonate with you.
It's like prejudice or bigotry of ideas. You know
Yes,
what I
that's right. That's right. That's the same idea. We have a built-in idea or a profile of how something should be, and now I don't want it. And that's the challenge. Really, what we're meant to do, our purpose on the world, if you really want to zoom out and look at it from a macro level, is I'm put on this earth with a whole bunch of natural tendencies. What am I going to do with those natural tendencies? Are they good? Are they bad? Well, the truth is that they're neutral. It's only a question of how you're using it that's going to decide if they're good or bad. Now, I may have a propensity to, let's say, I like violence. Right? I like violence.
Who doesn't?
Who does, right? We'll watch violent movies and... Right. So what do you do with that? You have to acknowledge that it exists and separate yourself to an idea. I like violence, but only on movies. I would never take that in. But if I continuously take it in, it could put me in danger and put myself in danger. And really what I want to be able to do is take the natural tendencies I have and to refine it and say, God, look what I did. You gave me this. You gave me flour. I baked bread. Blueberry, what is that? Banana muffins.
Visual
Thank you,
aid.
Camilla. Yes.
This show spares no expense on visual aids. We go on to the next. I recommend we go on the next one to try to put them all in.
Okay.
Go on to the next verse. So let's stick to our formula. Doron, you read 14 in Hebrew and English, then we'll fall. Then Akiva will follow.
Okay, so
who needs edits?
So Pasuk 14 says, Torat Chacham Mikor Chaim Lasur Mikoshe Mavet.
Right. So Torat Chacham is the wisdom or the instruction of a wise person. That's the source of life. And we want to avoid everything that's death. Now, we're not just talking about black and white of life and death. It doesn't necessarily speak specifically about death as in dying. We're talking about a spiritual death or a character trait that ends up dying that you're not using to live.
You got an example? That's a tough one. You got an example? I don't have an example.
A lot of people will tell you that they don't feel anything inside anymore. I'm not capable of love. It's dead. Or that, I'm not inspired. This doesn't get to me anymore. They're kind of flatlined, even though they're alive. Have you seen people who are just blah about things?
It puts the life into life, maybe, or it's like, what's the word? Inspiration, perhaps, or just... Are
you guys searching for the word blasé?
Well, maybe that's a lot of people go
or
through
depressed.
Life. Yeah, without because that's not real. To live there's a difference between living and existing.
Right.
Okay,
that
fine,
kind of the
fine, fine.
concept here?
Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
And so this, I guess, is maybe it's what it's saying is that's life without, existence without life, or living to the fullest is just basically the same as death.
Correct. If you're not going to be drawing on life, we know that, for example, the Torah is known as an Eitz Chaim Hi Lemachzikim Ba. It's a living tree. What does that mean? It's a living tree. A tree, by the way, in another life, I want to be an arborist, by the way. I don't know if I put that in. But you look at a tree, it's
I know one, by
spectacular.
the way, if you want some experience.
Who?
A buddy of mine.
Oh, okay.
I'll tell you all
Not
off air.
Ben Zlotnick? No, not Ben.
That's not him.
Okay.
I'm not sure
Guys, stay on topic.
Oh, okay.
Come on.
Tree is always on topic. Because when you stare at a tree, when you look
The
at a
first
tree,
time I've had to scream at people. Let's stay on topic. Let's stay on topic.
the idea is to be drawn close to things that provide life and avoid things that do not. And the wisdom of that draws from a wise person is really a spring. We all enjoy drinking water from fresh water that comes out from a well or from a river. Why do we enjoy that? It revitalizes us. The same with wisdom. If it's genuine and there's growth from it, we feel alive. You know, we live in a world where it's finite. Everything is finite. And yet the Torah, being God's mind, is infinite. How can the two mesh? How can finite, by its very definition, mix with something that's infinite? And the answer is the Torah, which God is God's mind. He took something infinite and he compressed it.
Please
so
translate the word Torah for our non-Hebrew audience.
Okay, so the Torah, what we believe in, was given at Har Sinai, at Sinai. God revealed himself and gave Moses the 10 Commandments as well as the entire Torah, the entire 5 books of Moses,
Right,
if
the
you will.
Old Testament.
The Old Testament, thank you. And we believe that every word in there is divinely inspired, that every word represents infinite energy of God, but yet can work in a finite world. And that is the source of life. Life can only come from something outside it. So the infinite energy of God is what creates life. So what Mishlei is telling you, back to topic, what Mishlei is telling you, if you want to draw on life, you need to go to the source. And that's a Torah Chacham.
That's nice.
Gotta tap into the source.
Right, the wellspring of life, and avoid the snares of death. Now, the snares of death means anything finite that's going to pull you down. That's the idea.
Into the well.
Okay. So the bottom line is vitality is we want energy. We don't want to be pulled in by the evil inclination who's going to tempt us with things that are going to take us away from our goal, which is to try to benefit from drawing of life.
The man speaks wisdom. Next pasuk,
Shlomo.
sir.
Okay, here's pasuk 15. Sechel tov yiten chen v'derech bogdim etan.
Here again, it comes to something called about intelligence and character.
Hold on a second. I think we should first translate the verse we should do the Hebrew, then translate the verse,
Okay.
then go to the point,
Got it.
and then go to your comment. That's
Okay.
I think. Yeah.
Okay. You're the director.
No edits here. No
No
edits.
edits, okay.
Edits are
A
for
good
wimps.
mind wins favor, but the way of the treacherous is unbending. So, how do we go about grabbing onto wisdom? You know, it's a nice concept, it's a nice idea, but how do we actually execute it? And what we need to do is use our intellect. Our intellect must master the emotions. That's really what it's about.
No, hold on. Now I'm going to push you around.
Okay, no problem. Bring it on.
It just is a little theater here.
Okay.
Don't you want to go with what your heart says? Don't you? You can't even get a reaction.
Personally, not me.
You tell me,
Not me
Bruce,
personally.
close your eyes for a moment
Okay,
and
but
tell
I'm
me,
close.
think about the things in your life when you followed your heart versus following your mind.
Disastrous. Disastrous.
The heart is...
I can't cry.
The emotions have a place, but the emotions, in a sense, are what's called... they're immature, right? I want it, I need it, I gotta have it. intellect says, right? That's usually what they're immature. They don't understand because they're emotions. Intellect understands something. So the idea is to use everything with a certain amount of thoughtfulness and insight, and use that to be able to analyze what it is that's coming across from you. And then when you take intelligence together with good character traits, then you have the right blessing. So then, in other words, when you come up into a situation, let's say, for example, I like using always a buffet table, right?
Sounds good.
Who can
Buffet
complain?
table. Who can say no? But the buffet. Now the buffet table tells
more
me
visual aids. Okay.
tells me all you can eat. I want to know somebody who ate all he can eat. All he can eat. He's finite. He can't consume that much. It's not possible. And yet he's tempted. Right, but his mind would say, "I can't
That
eat all you can eat."
drew him to the buffet.
Yes, I have a plan from your phone company. I don't want to plug any of them free. They don't deserve the plugs on it. But one of them is unlimited data. When was the last time you used unlimited data? You can't use unlimited data. But the idea, wow, I'm unlimited, is a great idea. You want to touch the infinite, but just not there. So what we want to do is to take the idea of touching the infinite, but just not in material things, but more in ideas,
Spiritual.
spiritual matters. That's where really the infinite belongs.
Exactly. That's the truth.
That's correct.
I have a speculation on the verse, the word seichel.
Yes.
My belief, and I've never done the research, is that the word psychology comes from the word seichel. You think that's a reasonable speculation?
Why not?
Psychologia, that's how you say it.
Psychologia.
Hebrew.
I don't know if that would be
is that
proof.
something-
I don't know.
I don't know.
Because zipper and cigarette work the same way.
I'm not super fluent in Hebrew.
Yeah. That's just my. I haven't, like I said, I haven't done the homework on it. We're on to the next pasuk, next
Okay.
verse.
Next verse 16. Kol arum yaseh bedat uvekisil yifrosh yivelet.
The kasil comes up a lot now.
I'm missing 16. Can we go to 17
Sure.
and come back to 16?
But just to say the English of
Yes.
16 quickly. Every clever person acts with knowledge, but the fool broadcasts his foolishness.
Oh, you know, my English is unfolds. Broadcast is a.
And we're, of course,
makes the point.
broadcasting wisdom. 100%
There was a lot of
wisdom.
thought put into this.
That's right.
Okay, so we don't have a comment on it. Okay, so let's go to 17. So you're on
We're
for
trying to
17.
put some thought into this. 17 in Hebrew. Okay. Reish v'kalon. Is that the right one?
No,
Or did I
malach.
speak- oh,
Malach.
sorry, I
Malach,
skipped one.
malach.
Malach Rashai Yipol Bera V'tzir Emunim Malpeh.
A wicked messenger falls into trouble, but a faithful emissary brings healing.
This verse is going to deal, and I didn't appreciate this from the Passover Haggadah, where there's that reference to the different intermediary bodies of angels and so on. But this one goes into it and makes a fine point here. The Malach Rasha and the Amuna Marpeh. No, not the Amuna Marpeh.
Emunim
Yeah.
Marpeh.
Yeah.
Well, here he's talking about the mission that we all have. We're all given a specific task to accomplish in this world. And sometimes we're even given a task by our loved ones. Please go to the store and pick up X, Y, and Z. What's the record on that, Bruce?
Well, I'm the one who's sent to go, and invariably I get chewed out when I bring home the wrong stuff. And I buy extra.
Because to actually execute a task without distraction is difficult. You know, when Aaron was told, Aaron HaKohen, who is Moses' brother in the temple, his job was to light the candles. And God told him exactly how to do it. And he's exalted by all the commentaries how he was able to execute his task exactly. Is that such a big deal? And the answer is yes. Not to be distracted, to focus exactly on what your task is very difficult. There is always a distraction. There's always a text message. There's a WhatsApp. There is something to take you out of what you're supposed to do. And mostly, internally, We're programmed that way, that we have a task, but God instilled in us, in 2 weeks ago's reading of the Torah, God instilled within us, He mixed good with bad. That means whenever there's good, there's going to be bad clinging to it, and therefore knock us off our game if we have to.
So just to elaborate on that, I just thought of something here. But like, how often do we try to accomplish something, even something simple and mundane we do every day? But then even just another thought will distract us from accomplishing that, or delaying us.
Yes.
And something that should take 5 minutes now, 15, 20 minutes later. What was I trying to do again? How often does that happen? It's all of us, right?
Right.
We don't even need technology to accomplish this.
We tend to be our own worst enemy, which is really we are.
Yeah.
Can I use the sports terminology? Is okay.
Sure.
But we all know what a line of scrimmage is in football.
No,
Where
but we all don't know what
a line of
I know it, but we all don't know that.
Okay,
Whether
there's a starting point.
Well, for those who are unaware, the football is played by two opposing teams, and the ball is marked on a specific yard line, and they push in one direction or the next, and then they kind of push towards the goal to try to enter the ball into the end zone. So what's called the line of scrimmage is you can't cross this line, I can't cross your lines, and it's your brutes against my brutes. That line of scrimmage, that flashpoint, if you will, is going on in your mind on a regular basis between your evil inclination and your positive inclination, or we'll call it godly soul and an animalistic souls, and they're fighting to the death. And what your goal is to try to arm the good inclination to try to beat the evil inclination as best as possible. But that's really the flashpoint is in your mind, because whoever wins the mind is going to win the war of words, and then it's going to lead to action. I'd like to get to that in a moment of how do we address a person, or rather, how can a person express himself? Usually it's with three cloaks. Thought.
Three cloaks?
Cloaks.
Okay.
Thought, speech, and action. Machshava, dibur, masa. Those are the cloaks of who you are, or close to it. Machshava is thought. Now, a person can think of 1,000,000 thoughts, 1,000,000,000 thoughts, right? He's got a Google in his own mind. But yet speech becomes narrowed. You can't speak everything you think. I think it's also a good idea not to speak everything you think. Following which,
we all saw
action, and when we don't, we're reminded.
We've all been there.
So, and after you're following speech, the next thing is that it narrows down to action. If we can only accomplish everything we say, it's even less. But the power of thought is infinitely greater than speech as you go up. So realize that the war is going on right at that point. It's the war in your mind.
It's easier said than done, for
Yes.
sure.
Okay. I want to beat up my guest.
Okay.
Can you define the word scrimmage? Because all during talk I think, what the hell is scrimmage? What's
Okay.
that word mean?
Scrimmage, I guess, is, for better of a lack of a better term, is fighting.
Oh,
Or scrimmaging.
Sounds
Yeah.
good. We'll Google it up later.
Okay.
Opposing?
M's.
Opposing?
Opposing, usually it's
Sure.
I've
opposing.
never used it other than in the line of scrimmage. I've
In
never
football,
used
yeah.
the word.
It's a football, right? It's a line of scrimmage, a line where everything starts.
That's the demilitarized zone.
You've heard it in that context?
No, I'm
Okay,
I'm saying that, trying to explain it.
Okay.
So it's just that neutral area, there's your
Right.
on one, my team's on one side, your team's on that side. The line of scrimmage is the line that separates both of us until the play starts.
Correct.
And then
That's
we can go anywhere.
You know,
Move back
now
and
is a good time to take a commercial break and all Google up scrimmage. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you in a moment.
Our company is committed to providing truthful, honest, competent, and result-oriented service through advising and representing our clients in Canada and overseas in a wide range of immigration matters. We focus on providing support, building dependable relationships, and promoting success. We are dedicated to understanding what results you want and to helping you understand what actions we can take on your behalf.
Simple lang kumita kahit nasa bahay ka lang. Gamit ang iyong Show My King online franchise business. Step 1, you post. Step 2, we deliver. Step 3, you earn. Tandaan, sa Show My King lang yan.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
We're back. We've had a rough fight. It was terrible on defining scrimmage. What is the definition of scrimmage?
So we quickly Googled it here, and I think we were pretty close to the point, but you guys can be the judges of that. So it says here, a confused struggle or fight is a scrimmage, and that I think speaks directly to what the Mashli is saying to us here.
Correct.
In this pasuk.
And the Mishlei is trying to clarify it. You're at the line of scrimmage, and if you will, he's calling a play in the huddle. Let's stay with the sports metaphor a little bit longer, okay?
Sure.
Once I get started,
Sure.
I'm not going to stop. But you're in the huddle. The quarterback calls a play. He knows what the defense is going to call, or he thinks he does. And when he gets to the line of scrimmage, he looks over the defense and he says, oh, this looks a little bit dicey. Maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. He maybe changes the play. Maybe he doesn't. But he has to evaluate what's going on over the defense. Can I do it? Can I not? And of course, it depends his position on the field. Is he backed up to his own goal line? Is he about to go in for a
Right.
touchdown? So it makes a
And the
little bit of
confusion is once the play starts,
That's
you
right.
everybody has their assignment, but who's gonna do it? Who's gonna fail in their
Right.
assignment? Who's gonna succeed? So that's the confusion.
correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, let's march forward, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay. Are we staying with sports metaphors?
You know my thing here. I don't want it to be a sports show or a political show, but metaphor is
It's to help
is where.
understanding.
Yeah. I also want to make sure we cover the pasuk,
Yes.
that last
It's a
pasuk.
supplement to your visual aids.
Right. Yes.
You didn't explain to me about the plant. Do we have a moment to tell me about the plant? Or the plant's not showing on the screen, is it?
Okay.
Pick up the
This
plant.
is called the wisdom plant. Now okay, we'll take a 1-minute commercial on the wisdom plant.
Okay.
It's really not called the wisdom plant, I'm lying. It's called carnivorous butterworts. I started with one that I bought at a plant show. The guy said to me, hey, mister, want to buy a special plant? And I said, yeah. He said, it eats insects. I said, okay, I'll buy it. I don't care about anything else. It also has, you can see the little black dots on it. Those are insects. They fly in, they get trapped on it, so to speak. It also is splittable. I started with one. I had about 150 plants out of it.
Right.
I've given them away. It grows a beautiful red flower or purple flower. And I've been told the flower lasts longer than most other similar plants with flowers. And you can see that this is sort of growing two things now.
Right.
Those are called rosettes, where normally a flower has this one thing in it, but this one sort of gets 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, and then you can split them into separate plants. So this is the gift to those who come on the show. They get a wisdom plant, formerly known as carnivorous butterworts. Look it up, and have a good day. Okay.
May I explain this gift? This is banana muffins baked by my beautiful wife Carmela, and they're delicious.
Okay, we have the line of scrimmage. The line of scrimmage is right here. Okay, fine.
All right.
Next verse, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's 18.
Yes.
You're on, Doron.
Okay. Reish v'kalom porea musar v'shomer tochachat yekubal. Or yekubad. Sorry, yekubad.
It's like COVID, right?
Yekubad, maybe.
No, it's not.
We gotta dig into that one.
Okay, you got verse. Was that 7?
Did I say the wrong one?
No, but that was 18, right? Yeah, that's 18. You got it?
No, I missed 18 here.
Okay, so I'll
Read
continue.
it again.
Okay, so I'll read in Hebrew again.
I think I printed
Number 18.
Yeah.
Reish v'kalon porea musar v'shomer tochachat yakubad. And in English, that's the English translation of that is poverty and shame befall one who rejects discipline, but he who heeds rebuke will be honored.
Right. So once again, Mishlei is focusing on what do I want to intake and what do I want to reject. So if what you're taking in is discipline, and we all know from what Warren Buffett says, and for all those financial managers, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, what's the best way for wealth? Is consistency.
It's also integrity.
And right.
I'm quoting Mayor Bernstein in a previous show. He did a great piece on that. But go on. Sorry.
Okay, so no, add the integrity component to it is in the investment component.
Look, it's in all aspects of life, basically.
Right. Okay. I'm referring to specifically the desire to have something consistent. The same thing every day. You know, one of the, if I can pose a question, if I asked you what is the most, if you could summarize, if you will, the single statement that encapsulates the Torah, what would you say?
Oh my God! Single statement.
Single statement. You got
say,
Japan.
the neighbors do unto
V'ahavta
others.
l'reacha kamocha.
Yeah.
Shema Yisrael Hashem
Yeah.
Elokeinu Hashem Echad.
Yeah.
Bereshit bara Elokim.
Einod milvado.
Right, all those things that it's in a sense, it becomes the slogan, if you will, of the Jewish life, right? All the big statements, Shema Yisrael, Hear O Israel, Bereshit bara, in the beginning God created the world, V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Bruce is right, Rabbi Akiva was the one who said, no relation. Rabbi Akiva is the one who said that love your neighbor as you treat yourself. This is actually a discussion in the commentaries as to what is the single statement that encapsulates Jewish thought.
The word would
and
be
the
credo.
answer is credo.
Credo
Okay.
would be a credo
Right.
is what you hold with.
And the answer is et hakeves echad taseh v'boker v'et hakeves hasheni taseh ben arbaim. The morning, in the times of the temple, they serve 2 daily sacrifices. Are we comfortable in talking
Yeah,
about
sure,
animal
sure.
sacrifices? Or
Yeah,
is
sure.
Peter watching? So
You'll find out.
these are genetic sheeps. They're not like Dolly.
It's a tricky topic. It's so strange and foreign,
Right.
and we're so distant away from it.
Yes.
It would take an hour to make it not sound weird.
Yes, actually, I should tell you that Bruce's brother-in-law is Rabbi Blaustein, who is a top-notch educator in the school system here. And he told me recently that to teach the concept of animal sacrifices in today's environment is very challenging. We grew up learning it all the time.
No, but
there's resistance.
we're not on the farm. Let's start with that. We don't know. We don't understand four-legged thing. We have dogs and cats,
Right.
but we don't understand cattle and breeding and the whole everything in Torah is agricultural and
Right.
stars. And we're so distant from all of it. I could list 10 things that were distant from the Torah.
So in the time, back to our point here, so in the time of the temple, they would serve 2 sacrifices every day. One in the morning and one in the evening. Every day. You got to do it every day. So this rabbi, I think it was Rabbi Yishmael, said that is what Judaism is all about, is consistency, integrity.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Over and over again. Do the same thing. Routine builds resistance, and we're going to get to routine in a moment in some of the future verses, but routine and consistency is what builds up your immunity, if you will. Isn't that a given word now?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's what ultimately will provide you with the strength. If you ask, anybody go to a gym? Anyone go to a gym here?
I pay a membership.
So if you lift weights, do you lift weights? You lift weights, right? What do they tell you? What's the important part? Is the slow push-up going up and the slow going down. Not how many times you're picking up, but the consistency and the routine is building strength. So if the consistency and routine works in a physical matter, it certainly will work in a spiritual matter. In fact, we should stop looking at ourselves as a body that happens to have a soul. It's a soul that happens to have a body.
Oh, very
That's-
good.
Right?
That's very good. That's
Okay.
It's
very
real
good.
truth right
So
there.
right, it makes a big difference. We all
that's-
think, oh, our soul is right here. I got him in my
Yeah.
pocket. He's somewhere, buried between my liver and my appendix.
Right.
Really, since soul is something spiritual, you can't really measure it.
Right.
Right? Because it's not quantifiable. But if it could be quantifiable, it would be from here to the sky, and the body would be like a fingernail.
That's right, but habitually we're so programmed
Yes.
to put our bodies
Yes.
first and our
Correct.
souls last, maybe
Yes.
sometimes on Sundays.
Yeah.
And,
That's right.
and but yeah, we need more consistency with that spirituality and that soul to put that first.
Well, funeral, weddings, and maybe bris. That's it. That's when people sometimes grasp towards something spiritual, is during those
So
times.
so it's obviously not enough.
Right.
Also, to nature, people pick up this. I pick up the soul in the physical things of nature. Whether it's
Of
this
course.
change of seasons. In my personal approach to theology, divinity, Torah, etc., is when I pick up a rock and look under it in the garden, and there's a bunch of creepy, disgusting things. To me, my relationship with agriculture is my derech Hashem, my pathway to God.
All roads lead to Rome. Really, God put his thumbprint in everything that he created. And didn't they just have now the Higgs boson, if you want to Google that as well, the God particle,
the God
which is
particle,
really
yeah.
the ingredient in every matter. God did hide himself in everything that he created. That's why Olam, right? Olam lashon helem, Olam, which means world, also means hidden. So God came into this world and I don't see him. It doesn't look like he's around, but when you pick up a rock and you see those
Creepy things.
creepy
Yeah.
things.
And if you go even deeper, put it under a microscope, and you see
It's even
how
more.
much more.
You touch the infinite.
Yeah,
And that's
exactly.
what really God wants. You in the finite world, find me. It's like a game of hide and seek.
Right.
Find me.
Oh my God!
Consistently.
Right?
Consistently.
Consistency. Keep
Consistently,
looking. Keep
yeah.
looking. He is everywhere.
He is
There's no
everywhere.
question. Like City TV.
Let's go on to that. I keep, as a moderator, I keep coming to where should I cut him off instead of my next verse, but we keep getting highlights.
He keeps copying himself.
Let's get to the next verse.
Okay, so here we go. Number 19. Ta'ava nehiya te'erav lenafesh v'to'avat ksilim sur mera.
This is very much what we were just talking about. I now see that the Sefer, that the book has paragraphs in it, but they're not. You have to dig a little deep to see the paragraphs because this is completely what we were talking about.
Yeah, it's
Do
not,
you- do you
it's not
have-
organized.
Do you have notes on 19?
I don't. I don't know.
Okay, so just to explain the English,
Yeah, should I say it in English?
translation
Yeah.
of that sentence, desire attained is sweet to the soul, but turning from evil is an abomination to fools.
Because of addiction, right? So somebody who is evil, what happens to him? He succumbs to the desire of whatever it may be, his drug of choice, and he can't seem to want to let it go. Because he thinks that's what the life is. If I let this go, then how do I define myself? So if we could separate it and say addiction is okay, or desire for something continuously is okay, try to channel it into something more positive. And that's what the Chacham does. The Chacham, the wise one, finds something good and it attracts himself to it. He takes his desire and clings to it. On the other hand, an evil person takes the concept of desire, emotion, which is neither good nor bad, it only depends on how you use it, and uses it for something irresponsible.
You need to sync this with an example.
Well, I think I think it explains it
can't think of
in.
one that fits both sides. We can go to for argument's sake, we can go
Yes.
to the buffet.
Okay.
The chacham, the sage-like fellow, who's watching his weight, goes to the buffet and he says, "Okay, I'm not passing that line of scrimmage." And
Or he doesn't go to the buffet at all.
Yeah.
He'll order a la carte and say,
Okay.
I won't be able to withstand the temptation of a buffet.
okay,
I'm going to back away from it.
His understanding is desire.
Yes.
But I think that goes back to the sentence 17 here, where a wicked agent will fall into evil, but an emissary of the faithful will bring healing. So that's that addiction can bring you into the evil. if you're addicted or your desire is misplaced, I guess.
That's right.
Because you can desire the wicked agent, or you can desire to bring healing.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, we've all heard of, if this is an example that works, we've heard of doctors who don't practice responsibly. We've heard lawyers who don't practice responsibly. Is that a
You haven't
reflection?
heard of show hosts?
No, show us 100%. Right here. And by the way, Bruce, if I didn't commend you again, what you're doing is spreading
God's
wisdom.
work.
God's word is really our job. We're supposed to be a light unto the nation.
It's unbelievable how fantastic I am, ladies and gentlemen.
Look at that. Look how he went from humility right away, he jumped always into arrogance. Thin line.
No
right?
line of scrimmage here. Okay,
Really, Bruce, it's terrific.
Thank you, sir.
Super
Thank you.
spreader.
Oh man, you guys are lovely and cruel at the same time.
Okay, do we
What's the
finish that
next-
thought? So the idea is that is not a reflection of law or medicine. It's how you practice it. It's the same with addiction.
Which is your desire?
Which is your desire.
Which do you desire?
Correct. Right. Whatever.
Are you
In other words,
chasing
desire
are you chasing
in
the money
itself.
from becoming a doctor or a lawyer, or are you trying to help people become healthy? Is that? can you
Oh, so
use-
that's motivation.
okay.
That's
Okay,
motivation.
so
But I'm
misunderstanding.
right. That's motivation. I'm saying that a doctor can practice medicine irresponsibly, or a lawyer practice law irresponsibly. That's not a reflection of the law in general. It's only how he's using it. So let's take, instead of law, the concept of desire. How are you practicing your desire? Are you doing it responsibly, or are you letting it run roughshod over everything that you're supposed to do?
Right.
Right, so that's the idea that you have to manage desire and kalut rosh, or humor. Everything has to be done with a measure. Don't let anything run roughshod with you and let it control you. You have to control it.
Okay, let's go on. That's a highlight. Let's go on to the next verse.
All right. Ta'ava nihiyeh ta'erav la'nefesh tovat. Or we just read this one. Next one.
20.
20. Sorry, I just read 19 again.
Happens. You
Holech-
were almost fired last time.
I started off with that one. Okay, number 20 from the beginning. Okay, Holech et chachamim yechacham vero'a ksilim yero'a. Which in English translate to, one who walks with the wise will become wise, but the companion of fools will be broken.
Okay, so here we're talking about something else that I think impacts a person's behavior, and that's the environment. He's choosing his friends. No one's going to tell me that they're not impacted by the company they keep. So who are you choosing? Are you choosing to hang around good people, positive people, people who bring you energy, people who make you better, people who challenge you? Or are you choosing to hang around people who are going to bring you down? So the wise person, like every choice in
It's
life...
the buffet table again. Go to or not go to. Go to the bad guys or go to the
Go to
good guys. Same. It's
That's
the
right.
same point.
It's the same
We have
idea.
all these choices.
Except that the Malbim says that the access to the bad guys is easier, access to the good guys is harder. The good guys will, so to speak, shun you away, at least initially. The bad guys will welcome you, and it's even easier to take over a gang of bad guys.
Makes sense.
Right. There's no question that the road less traveled is the one for goodness.
Oh,
Goodness
nice,
is in a
nice.
shell.
Nice.
And you have to break through the shell. In Kabbalistic term, it's called klippa. If you're not sure, Kabbalistic terms call Madonna. I had to get her in. Right.
I'm glad you got us there.
But everything is what's called a klippa is in a shell. Now the shell protects something. It's neither good nor bad, but what's inside it, that's behind it, that's gonna money, for example, is really the best example.
How's that?
Is money evil or is money good?
Oh, it's just ammunition.
It's a tool.
Just,
It's a tool. You can use it for good. You can give charity. You can build schools, and then it can be
It's
bad
like
too. You
saying
can
is
gamble
our
it away.
thermometer is good or bad. It's just a measure.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I know there's a saying that says money is the root of all evil. Evil is the root of all evil.
I
Well, 'cause
actually
money
think-
leads
I
to
think
more
that's
money.
actually a New Testament quote. I think I
What,
believe
the
it
money?
is. Money is the root of all evil.
Because
I
money
believe it is. Yeah.
because that leads to greed, right? And then it's because I think that's what we're talking about here before, because it's so easy for us to for our desires to be only connected through our five senses,
Right.
And it's a lot harder for us, and that's why it says it's very easy to follow the path of evil, because those are, if we're just slave to our five senses, I think it's very easy for us to go on the wrong path.
Right.
But if we tap into something deeper, more meaningful, we're able to then choose a different road. It's harder, easier
Right.
said than done,
Right.
because most of what like we said, it's so hard not to be, not to see something shiny and think it's gold.
Right. Right. So
It's
we can use the
simple.
gym analysis
Sure,
again.
yeah.
That if we want to achieve something, it takes a lot of work. And you see people in a gym pre-corona, how hard they worked at getting into shape. And it's important. That's physical shape. If you want to understand the spiritual, just look at the physical. To get into spiritual shape takes that extra work, and it takes that extra effort, and it takes that discipline, consistency, all the things that Michelet is telling you how to be able to do it. And if you don't make that choice, you end up somewhere else. But we do have a choice. At every given moment, you have a choice how to react to the stimuli that's outside of you.
Absolutely.
Yes, I have it's a New Testament quote.
What
Money is the root of all evil.
Okay. Although I think Shlomo Melech said it in Kohelet, "Kesef yaneh takol," which is parallel, which means that money can answer everything. In Yiddish, Bruce, you speak a little bit. Schmiertman
Abyssal.
Furtman. If you pay,
Yeah.
you can travel.
But again,
Right.
money's a physical thing, right? So,
Yeah.
So then maybe it is in a way, the root of all evil, because that is the number one way where I think a lot of people today tap into their physical, right? That's what they're tapping into. That's their desire. So,
Well, Bruce is right. If
So
you
it's a
have the money,
distraction.
it's a tool to be
Yeah.
able to go get something. It's a measuring
It's
stick. If I have a
amorphous.
lot of money, I'm somebody.
but you don't need money to study the Torah or to study
No.
the Bible.
No.
No,
right?
but you need to pay the rent, pay the heat, etc.
Right, right.
All money is a tool to achieve things. If you work hard, and it's a resource of which your energy, or fortune, or luck, what have you, can be transferred and held with. It's not. It's amorphous. It's not a real thing. It's just a measurement of other energy and other forces.
I know this is the wisdom show and not the
The money show.
belief show.
Yeah.
But money is, in a sense, when we pray for a good year, we're constantly thinking of our material needs, that I don't have enough money to live, and nobody does. I remember they took a survey in the U.S. a few years ago. What amount of money do you need to earn to be happy? And every group said 25% more than what they were earning now.
Exactly.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So in other words, if I just got to that amount,
Yeah.
this is called destination addiction. That's what my son called it.
Amazing.
When I get to that, then I'll be happy.
Well, you
But
won't.
you won't be. The nature of money is, yesh lo maneh rotzeh 200. If I have 100, I want to have 200. I'm never going to be happy. But the idea is, it's part of the test of faith that we have, is to say, this is the amount of money that I have. I got to be happy with it. Let me make it work. I have to make it work. And you stay within your boundaries, and you don't spend more than what's necessary.
You avoid the buffet table.
That's right.
There's a big theme coming out.
know.
I hate to say it, but there's a big theme coming up with that damn buffet table.
I'm amazed. I know that Mandarin, it's obviously non-kosher, and I've never been there, but the Mandarin offers 26 varieties, right, in their buffet.
Of rice.
You remember we went to Herschel's, was the only
Yeah,
kosher
no, the King
Chinese
Solomon.
buffet. King Solomon's, thank you.
Yeah.
King-
Oh, how appropriate.
King
Yeah.
Solomon. Very good. So,
Appropriately named.
So quick.
so you remember the buffet at King
Sure.
Solomon's?
Sure.
How could you not go?
Yeah.
I got to get my money's worth. I know no matter how much I ate, I never got my money's worth. I couldn't, and I went, and I went, and I went, and I couldn't. Right?
The trick was to go there till you achieve pain.
Yeah, until you can't move, and it's a struggle to get home. And
Let's go to the next verse, and I
Okay.
want to hit, in the next few minutes, I want to hit 24. So what are we at?
we're at 21 now.
Yeah.
Let's do 21, 22. Let's read them to combine them.
Okay, so
Okay, so
starting
read
with
all three.
Chatim here.
Pardon?
So starting with Chataim here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Chataim teradef ra'ah ve'et tzadikim yeshalem tov. Tov yenchil b'nei banim v'tzafon latzadik chayil choteh. And the English of that is, evil pursues sinners, but the righteous will be rewarded with good. A good person will bequeath to grandchildren, but wealth of a sinner is secreted for a righteous person.
Why don't you read the next one also, please?
Okay, let's see. Rav ochal nir oshim veyesh nisfe belo mishpat.
And the buffet table is?
Much food grows from the furrows of the poor, and substance may be swept away for lack of justice.
Can we put something together? It's really... Can we string it together somehow? Let's all try.
Well, I think that we're talking about wisdom and happiness. That's the underlying theme here, is it not? We want to be happy in life. Now, happiness is not a goal. Happiness is an attitude, right? You cannot achieve happiness. You have to live with happiness. It has to be one of the ingredients that you live with on a day-to-day basis.
I have to think about that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
But the idea is that as you go through everything that the King Solomon recommends that you live, you'll find that you're living a more focused life. You know, one of the things that Bruce alluded to earlier is about loving your neighbor as yourself. When a person has completeness, and what does that mean, completeness? He has shalom, he has peace, he has inner peace. He gets along with himself. Forget about getting along with your wife or children or in-laws, right? Which is a challenge on its own, to get along with somebody outside of yourself. That's how we started, by the way, today's wisdom. If you remember about things outside of yourself. But the idea is anything outside of yourself. When you can get along with things outside of yourself, you'll have peace. That's what peace means. Me in my world, you in your world, and we're going to create one entity, a peaceful entity. On a micro level, a person inside of himself, if the evil inclination, which is there for a purpose, gets along with your good inclination, the Yetzer Hara, the bad and the good can get along, and they acknowledge each other's existence, then you have peace. I understand your role. You want to see the buffet table, you want it to, I get it, but we're not going to do that. He's okay with it. And he understands that really he will benefit, the evil inclination will benefit as well when the good inclination is in charge.
We're so prepared to go into the next verse now by what you've just said. So let's launch into it without further ado.
Okay.
World's famous verse. We need a drum roll.
Okay. Choshech shebito soneh beno ve'ohavo shichro musar. In English, one who spares his rod hates his child, but he who loves him disciplines him constantly.
Wait a minute. Bruce acting. It's not who spares, isn't it? He who spares the rod spoils the child? What are you reading?
I'm reading straight from King Solomon, Melech Shlomo.
So are you saying that it's a misquote?
I think right here we've proven it because we're reading directly from it. So that obviously must be some sort of.
So what? Okay, so let's assume that we've dispensed with the lie of the misquote. What does the real quote mean? Do you have anything on that?
We discussed this in the beginning before the show about this famous quote. So the literal translation is that if you have a child and you spoil him, you let him do whatever you want, in other words, and spare the rod. Now, the rod is, again, a metaphor about disciplining the child. You're going to end up hating him.
It's what you do with the horse. That's
right.
the reference. I appreciate you said a metaphor.
Yeah, it is. We don't hit children anymore. It doesn't. It's not proven effective. Although I did get hit. I love my parents.
I got threatened. I got threatened. I never got hit. I never hit my kids. I don't even know if we threatened them. I don't think so.
I know. The idea was, I know some families, what they did was they put the belt up on the wall. And they said, you see that belt? You see that belt? It never actually came
Or slap the table.
Right.
Oh, really?
I
I've never done.
I think that's what teachers used to do, no? And that's what I've heard. I wasn't there, but that's the first threat. You hit the table first, or
Right,
man.
that's right, and this is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
I know families, I'm going to hit you, and ended up just giving him a tap. So the threat of the hit was
Yeah.
greater. But I want to take this a little bit outside of its literal meaning, if that's
Go
okay.
ahead, sure.
So again, there's very little to really talk about children here. It was always about you. Now all of a sudden,
No, but previously there's a lot of father and son reference.
correct.
Yeah.
So anytime there's a father and son reference, certainly it means to deal with their children, but it also means talking to yourself. What is a child?
Sure.
A child is a result of our action. Tolda, which means birth, is also used as the term of when you're going to do something, what's going to be the result of that action. If you're going to go to a buffet
very
table,
nice,
what
very
is the
nice.
result?
Very nice. I never thought of it that way. Very nice.
Okay. So what King Solomon is telling you here, that if you remove the discipline, you're going to end up hating the results of your actions. And that for sure we've all experienced. How did I let myself do that? Why would I do that? And you're kicking yourself because you lack discipline. That's what he says in the beginning. But if you introduce discipline, you'll end up loving him at the end.
There's so much here also in the metaphor. There's so much here that's metaphorical that you see. I highlighted.
Yes.
But it's deeper and wider to get to. I don't think.
Do you want to say that one more time, just to hammer the point, or
Which
what
one?
you just said about the discipline?
Right. So again, looking at it from the theme of what everything we discussed today is that if a person thinks of himself as Homeland Security or a border guard, and what comes in and what goes out, he is in charge of, right? Including, and it starts, by the way, as we said, the line of scrimmage is a person's mind, what's coming in and what's going out. A second line of scrimmage, by the way, is a person's mouth. What
Oh
comes
my
in and
God.
what
Guard
comes
your
out.
gates.
Hachaim
Oh my
v'amavet biyad halashon, right? Life and death is really dependent on the tongue. Now remember, when King Solomon's
Yeah.
death, he doesn't mean literal cemetery stuff death. It means death, living dead. You're not drawing on the well springs of life. So the idea is that if you have discipline, you will love the results of your actions. Every action has a reaction. That's Einstein, right? Every action has and the world is constantly changing. That's one of the features of a finite world, is it never stays the same. God doesn't change. Ani Hashem lo shiniti, I, God, do not change. It's only people that change. And we evolve, and we're moving, and we get older, and we get younger, and we try to get younger.
no one's getting younger.
No one's getting
I know that.
Right here.
We all get older. We're all evolving forward. But there's a rebirth. You told me you love the seasons. Isn't
Yeah,
that a
sure,
rebirth,
sure,
right?
sure.
So the world, in a sense, changes and starts anew.
But we're also
Yeah.
we're older. You're talking about your body's getting older, but I don't think there's any concept of time to the soul. Or that's
Oh,
my
isn't there?
understanding.
Maybe there's a refining. I think his soul matures, as if.
I think
as
I
if
think
what
maybe
I
it
can-
grows,
as if
or
what I
don't think
believe.
s- I don't know.
No,
Well, it is you certainly add to your experience. You grow,
depends.
and
on
your
how you
mind
define
takes
soul.
in more and more information, the experiences that you have.
Yeah.
Right? That's the difference between.
Yeah, a wise old soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's summarize here. I surprised people with the script. You know
okay.
what? Have you seen this before?
No, I have not. Not since
I'm
this
sta-
morning.
I'm start.
No, I have not seen it.
Have you learned something wise today?
Most certainly, yes.
Do you think we made humanity better today?
For sure. I know I'm become a better person for that, for today.
Did you have fun in our secret scroll-laden wisdom cave?
It was amazing.
Will you join us again one day soon?
Of course.
Okay, then we'll have you back again. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Daron Schreiber is our guest presenter next week. Should be a good show. You're welcome to come. We have a good, we work together well, this gang. Anyone else wants to come in? I think we have microphones for 5 people and cameras for somewhere less than 5, I think. We have cameras and mics for 5, and the more the merrier within certain reason. And our guest has done a superb job. Our
Thank you.
announcer has done a superb job. Ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe, hit share, hit anything else. Hit hit the guests.
Hit with love.
Hit with love. Thank you very
Dr.
much.
Finkel.
We'll see you next week. This is the Wisdom Show. As the kids say, peace out.